I had been so confused in the past. So I've shared in previous videos how I experienced my awakening, and no matter where I went, what I did, anybody who came near me was physically healed. You could see their eyes go big when suddenly an illness left them and they felt good. And they just walk away and go about doing what they normally did. And I asked, why am I able to be a channeling vessel for this healing, and then people just go back to the practices that were making themselves ill to begin with. One woman, I'm talking with her, and she's bedridden. She couldn't even sit up. Well, she's sitting up. She's glowing like an angel. We're having a wonderful conversation. And then, her Reiki practitioner's coming. She has to go now. And as I withdrew my attention, you could see her just sink back into the illness. We've seen where a man made pallets with wires into the ground so that people got the Schumann resonance, the Earth's electrical pulse, to sleep on under their mattress. And one woman, she's giving it back. Yeah, I can't heal. I can't get better. I won't get my disability anymore. What will I live off of? So everything bled out of me, all that energy, that healing energy. And I thought God had abandoned me. And then a few years went by, and I started retraining my neural pathways from that repetitive soundtrack from my subconscious. Things my parents had said, you're fat, you're ugly, you're blah, 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 blah. And as that happened, I could, I was having more spiritual experiences once again. And I sensed my spirit being brought up into heaven and introduced at the various levels. But I wasn't receiving, the human vessels, this physical brain wasn't receiving anything except for, harassment from the evil forces. And I saw a tree, a white tree of light. And then it was lifted out of me. And, my soul just screams, why are you taking this from me? I need this. I grew this. It's mine. So life goes on. A few years later, I had picked up on, in the spring, I get a foreknowing of the circumstances that I'm going to run into over the summer. And then in the fall, I am given my spiritual harvest, which is the gift of being able to embody what I have become, what my spirit has become at the end of that season. And, that's my harvest, that's my fruit. And then it's just taken up. And I would think, it's just for the winter. I'm going to integrate it over the winter, and then in the spring, I'm going to be this fabulous being. But no. And so I've come to understand that's what it means to store up treasures in heaven. These things aren't being stolen from us. They're being stored up in heaven. Because what good is it for me now to walk around healing everybody around me, but then they just go back to, they didn't have to work for it. They didn't have to come to know God for it. They didn't have to reflect on their behavior. They didn't have to change anything. It was just given to them. And then they go back to their evil ways. And so now I understand that. Why Normally my body would be bouncing back. I wouldn't look like I do. I wouldn't feel like I do. But I don't care. Because I know perfect well-being is stored for me. Those are my treasures in heaven. And these tears are relief. Because now I understand what's happening. And that's a good thing. So, I'm bringing through answers. I am answering arguments that began before our inception, before our creation. When our creation was conceived in the mind of our source, of our creator, that from which we were born. Disdain for what was brewing in the heart of God was there. And in me, the case gets closed. In each of us that comes to this point. I'm not purporting to be like, ah! The first one who's arrived at this conclusion, the first one to bring this testimony before the courts of heaven. I'm sure there are wiser people who have gone before me who figured that one out. Old wise men. But hey, I got there. So that's what it means to store up treasures in heaven. They're literal, physical states of being, physical gifts that we just aren't going to manifest here. But it doesn't mean we won't ever. It's like, after I get an answer like this, it's like, okay, my bags are packed. I have everything I need. You can take me now. But that's good to always be able to reach a place of what happens to me in this physical realm next doesn't matter. I've got what I need. And I'm not unduly attached to anything here. Treasures in heaven. I got mine, you got yours.